We all know how it goes. One day we're born, one day we die. Everything in between we try to make sense of. But here's the uncomfortable truth. We don't really know why any of it is happening. If we can't tell how we got here, how can we know why we're here? If we don't know what happens when it ends, how can we tell if anything we do actually matters? We've created different ways to cope. Some turn to religion, others find meaning in connection, in love, in simply being alive. But what if none of these answers actually solve the problem? What if the universe genuinely has no answer to give us? Most philosophies try to fill that void with something, but there's one that does the opposite. It says, don't run from the silence. Stand in the uncomfortable gap between your need for meaning and the universe's refusal to provide it, and do something unexpected. Live anyway. This is Absurdism, the philosophy of meaninglessness. Let's get something straight. Absurdism isn't about giving up. It's not lying down and accepting that nothing matters. It's the opposite, a philosophy of revolt, a defiant, so what, in the face of meaninglessness. The word absurd comes from the Latin absurdus, out of harmony, dissonant. That's exactly what it is. The dissonance between our desperate human need for meaning and the universe's absolute refusal to provide any. It's like showing up to a party you were never invited to, realizing no one knows why they're there either, but instead of leaving, you decide to dance anyway. Here's the thing about being human. We're meaning-making machines. We see patterns where there are none. We create narratives to explain random events. We need things to make sense. But think about your daily routine. Why do you do what you do? To make money? Why? To survive? To be comfortable? Why? To be happy? Why do you need to be happy? Keep asking why, and eventually you hit a wall. There's no satisfying final answer. Every culture has tried to solve this. The Egyptians built pyramids. The Greeks had gods. The Enlightenment had reason and progress. But none of these answers are objectively true. They're just stories we tell ourselves to make the uncertainty bearable. And in our modern world, we're running out of stories everyone believes. At its core, absurdism is about the confrontation, the collision between three things. First, there's us, human beings with consciousness, with our desperate need for meaning and purpose. Second, there's the universe, cold, indifferent, silent. It doesn't answer questions. It doesn't even acknowledge we're asking. Third, there's the confrontation itself. When you, a conscious being demanding answers, come face to face with a universe that will never provide them. That clash, that's the absurd. Most philosophies try to resolve this tension. Absurdism says, no, don't resolve it. Stand in that uncomfortable space and stare directly at it. Imagine you're Wile E. Coyote and you've run off a cliff. You look down, see nothing beneath you. That moment of realization, that's the absurd. But here's the absurdist move. Instead of falling, you keep running. Not because you've found solid ground, but because running is better than falling. Before you think absurdism is just nihilism with better branding, let's clear up the confusion. Nihilists look at the meaningless universe and surrender. Nothing matters, there's no point. They see the void and give up. It's like being told the game is rigged, so they flip the board and walk away. Absurdism looks at the same meaningless universe and says, you're right, nothing has inherent meaning, but I'm going to create meaning anyway. It's the difference between seeing an empty canvas and saying, there's no art here, versus saying, not yet, there isn't. Think about Sisyphus, condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to watch it roll back down. The nihilist says, that's meaningless suffering. The absurdist says, but what if Sisyphus is happy? What if he's learned to love the climb? The difference is rebellion. Nihilism is passive acceptance. Absurdism is active revolt. Existentialism and absurdism are like siblings who agree on almost everything but fight about one crucial difference. Existentialists say, there's no cosmic meaning, but we can create our own. We're free to define our own purpose. It's empowering, optimistic. Absurdism says, hold on, you can create personal meaning, but that doesn't solve the fundamental problem. Your personal meaning doesn't change the fact that the universe remains meaningless. It's like building a sandcastle and calling it permanent while the tide is coming in. You've recognized the absurd, now what? You have three options. Option 1, escape. Running away from the confrontation, the universe's meaninglessness wins. Option 2, philosophical suicide. Leaping into a belief system that claims ultimate meaning, religion, ideology, some grand narrative, comfort through self-deception. Option 3, acceptance and revolt. The absurdist response. You accept that the universe is meaningless, that your life has no cosmic significance, that you will die and be forgotten. You accept all of that, and then you revolt. Revolt means living anyway, waking up knowing nothing ultimately matters and choosing to live fully despite that. Loving people even though everyone dies. Creating art even though it will be forgotten. This is where freedom comes from. Once you accept nothing has inherent meaning, you're free from the burden of needing to find it. You don't need to justify your existence, you just live. Think about how much anxiety comes from needing your life to mean something. But if you accept that none of it ultimately matters, suddenly you're free to simply experience it. Why embrace absurdism? Because it might be the most honest philosophy we have. Can you really say with certainty that you know why you're here? Every religion contradicts the others. Every ideology has critics. Every meaning system eventually crumbles. The only thing we can say with certainty is, we're here, we're conscious, we want answers, and the universe isn't providing them. Absurdism doesn't promise comfort or easy answers. What it offers is authenticity, the freedom from facing reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. The silence of the universe isn't a problem to be solved, it's a fact to be accepted. And once you accept it, you can start paying attention to what's right in front of you. The taste of coffee, the warmth of sunlight, the complexity of another person's mind. These experiences don't need cosmic justification to be valuable to you right now. If absurdism had a patron saint, it would be Albert Camus. His work, particularly The Myth of Sisyphus, is the foundational text. Camus opens with one of philosophy's most provocative lines. There is only one really serious philosophical question, and that is suicide. He's not advocating for it. He's asking, if life is absurd, why continue living? His answer, because revolt is the proper human response. Back to Sisyphus, condemned to push a boulder up a mountain for eternity. Every time he nears the top, it rolls back down. No progress, no end, just endless, meaningless labor. But Camus says, we must imagine Sisyphus happy. How? Because Sisyphus has accepted his fate. He's stopped hoping for rescue. In that acceptance, he's found freedom. His punishment only works if it breaks his spirit. By refusing to be broken, by continuing despite knowing it's meaningless, he wins. The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. Look around at modern society. Absurdity is everywhere. We have access to nearly all human knowledge from our phones. Are we less confused about meaning? We've connected billions through social media. Are we less lonely? We've achieved technological miracles. Are we happier? Consider modern work culture. Find your passion, they say. But most people are just trying to pay rent, spending decades in careers they tolerate, contributing to products forgotten in months. It's absurd, literally absurd. Or dating apps, scrolling through thousands of potential partners while genuine connection is harder than ever. Social media, documenting our lives for validation, comparing ourselves to highlight reels, arguing with strangers who will never change their minds. The modern world is screaming that life is absurd. The question is, how do we respond? How do you actually live as an absurdist? Let go of the need for cosmic significance. Your life doesn't need to change the world. You don't need to be remembered. Most people who ever lived have been forgotten, and that's okay. Embrace impermanence. Every relationship ends. Every achievement fades. If nothing lasts, you don't have to cling so tightly. Love people knowing you'll lose them. That impermanence makes them more precious, not less. Live with intensity. If there's no cosmic meaning, the only meaning is what you experience now. So experience it fully. Taste your food. Listen to music with your whole attention. Be present for your life as it's actually happening. Create anyway. Write the novel that won't be published. Paint the picture no one will see. The act of creation is itself a form of revolt. Help others without needing a reason. Be kind because you've chosen to be, not because you'll be rewarded. Living absurdly doesn't mean being reckless or cruel. It means being fully engaged with life while remaining aware it has no cosmic meaning. It means caring deeply about matters that don't ultimately matter. Think about Sisyphus one more time. He knows exactly what his situation is, and he pushes anyway. According to Camus, he's happy, not because he's deluded, but because he's free. So here you are, asking what the point of it all is. The universe isn't going to answer. It never has, it never will. But maybe the question itself is the point. Maybe the struggle to find meaning in a meaningless universe is what makes us human. Maybe pushing your boulder up that mountain, knowing it will roll back down, but choosing to push anyway, maybe that's not a tragedy. Maybe that's freedom. We must imagine ourselves happy.